1, 2, 3. Good evening or good morning wherever you are at the moment. Today, I'm not gonna lie, it's actually a bit of a random video. I haven't had the most productive of days. I don't know why I'm flinging this around. I should probably put that down before I break my... But basically, I haven't had the most productive of days, as I said before, and I need to film a video and I need to study. So I thought I'd combine the two and film a study with me for you guys. So yeah, I'm going to set up all the cameras and stuff. And yeah, hopefully this motivates you to study and roll the clip. So we're actually only going to do like 1 hour of studying because it's kind of late and I have the whole of tomorrow free. And I'm planning on waking up like really early to like study really well. We're going to set it to 1 hour. There we go. And basically I'm only going to do like 15-minute chunks. So I'm going to make some notes on my lectures and put it into this thing called Anki. Then I'm going to what am I going to do? I'm going to do some teach me anatomy notes online on the heart, and then I'm going to prep for some of my DR. If you don't know what DR is, it's basically the dissection room, and you get to see the actual organs and stuff like that, so it's really useful. And then I'm going to finish off like the last 15 minutes going over some of the Anki stuff that I've already done. Hopefully that microphone's picking up everything, and yeah, let's get to work. So as I alluded to earlier, we're going to be doing 4 15-minute chunks of work. I usually try to start with one topic that I know I'm going to hate. That way I get it out of the way nice and early, but today I couldn't really be asked to do this and I just decided to start with anything. So to begin with, I copied up my lecture notes on hemostasis, I think. Basically my strategy, at least for the first term, is to go into my lectures and make as many notes as possible and then come back and break it down into the really important stuff. This will be done using an app called Anki, which is basically like Quizlet, but instead of you just selecting the sets you want to do, it kind of just sorts it out for you, which is really useful. I personally find that lecturers move way too fast, and like the stuff they talk about just flies over my head because literally every word of their sentence is just completely foreign to me. Hence I decided early on to forget about trying to understand them necessarily and try to do the majority of my actual learning at home, where I can actually look up and understand the stuff they're talking about. The topic I was focusing on was hemostasis, which I believe is just a fancy way of saying blood clotting. This wasn't one of the worst lectures in regards to the difficulty in understanding, mainly because, you know, I actually have an understanding of the wider picture, i.e. preventing blood loss and potential infection. But yeah, I'd be lying if I said I understood the actual finer details of what was going on. In essence, hemostasis is split into 2 parts, primary and secondary. Again, I have no idea what goes on in either of them. I just thought I'd say that to try and sound intelligent on camera. So basically all I did there was like, copy up all of my lecture notes into this thing called Anki, and then basically I have like an Excel sheet, and on that I highlight all of the stuff that I've converted into the actual Anki program. So like I just highlighted it green, and then all of the rest are like in black, and then later on, hopefully as I go through them, I'll turn them into green. So yeah. I then moved swiftly on to some anatomy, specifically the heart. We recently went over the heart during both our anatomy lecture and in the dissection room. In anatomy, the guy was just talking about like different parts of the heart, you know, pretty standard stuff, as well as the different branches of the aorta. So you got your subclavian, common carotid, etc. I was using a really good website known as Teach Me Anatomy to brush up on the actual areas of the heart, because we vaguely touched upon it in 6th form, but we didn't go into that much depth. Like we looked at the Purkinje fibers, the intercalated disc, but we never actually touched upon ECGs, you know, the coronary arteries. The website nonetheless was really useful. I was doing some work on the coronary arteries, as I mentioned, as well as the valves and fossa ovalis, I think, you know, the fossa thing that closes when babies first come out. Regardless, I found that really interesting. And speaking of interesting things, there was this clinical relevance section, and in this they were talking about a defect known as an atrial septal defect. Basically the issue exists when there's an opening in the interatrial septum which persists after birth. This causes blood flow from the left atrium into the right atrium. As you can imagine, not ideal to say the least. Basically, the extra blood in the right atrium leads to a build-up of pressure eventually in the right ventricle, which could lead to heart failure. Again, not ideal. I then moved on to some clinical skills work. So basically, clinical skills is like, you're basically in a, I think it's called a cubicle, so it's like what you see on the wards, and then you're in like a group, and then there's like a 3rd year or 4th year med student, and they teach you basically all you need to know about like clinical stuff. So this week we were doing something on, I don't know how to say the word, it's like auscultations of heart sounds. It's basically what you use a stethoscope for. And so I was just looking at where you take the, I don't know if you guys can see that, the aortic pulmonary tricuspid and mitral valves, where you check the sounds for, and yeah, you can see it's there. I was just seeing if I could remember exactly where to take the heart sound, because obviously, you know, as a med student. Next up on the agenda was preparing for the dissection room on Monday. Next week we're going to be focusing on the respiratory system, which, if I'm being honest, I'm not really looking forward to it. We literally barely anything on this in GCSEs and the IB, to be fair. Like, I remember doing ventilation, but even with that we barely touched the surface. As preparation, I generally start by reading the learning outcomes to kind of get a gist of what we're going to be talking about. There's also a preparation section which, you know, I should probably check out, but like, trying to go through all of the information in the session notes is long enough without factoring in the extra reading included in the preparation section. I then highlighted the important stuff that stood out. I know highlighting is renowned as one of the worst ways to revise, but I don't really class DR prep as revision, more as, you know, preparation. It would be, wouldn't it? And after I've gotten the general gist of what is going on, I then start by making questions based on the information included in the session notes. This is by far the worst bit of the entire thing, but you know, as a general rule of thumb, the one thing that you least enjoy usually tends to be the thing that's going to be most beneficial to you. So yeah, I just made a ton of questions on the standout points and answered all of the questions. I was prepping for DR that we have next week. I think I explained earlier what DR is. I just dropped my pen earlier on in the video. And basically, prepping for DR is like the worst thing ever, because you just don't know what it's about. Like, all of the words here, like, it's a good idea to go through all of the words highlighted in bold. And whenever I just don't know what any of them are, and it's so irritating because you just have to Google so much stuff, and it's just quite long. And the thing is, if you don't Google it beforehand, when you go to the ER, they're just gonna start talking, and it's just gonna be waffle to you if you haven't prepped for it before. And it's just, it's not bad, but if the med student then picks on you to answer the question, it's peak, because you look like an actual idiot in front of everyone. So yeah, it's a lot of hours just put in researching, and yeah, it's quite long. I'm not gonna. This part is really dead. I really hate this part, but yeah, I'm probably gonna leave it there actually, because I'll dedicate like a whole hour session to it later on in the week. So now I'm just gonna go over some of the Anki cards that I made earlier on in the week, or like last week, that I never revised because I'm an idiot and I should have revised them on the day, but I didn't. So I'm gonna go through that now, and then that should pretty much be it. I'll just like edit or something after this. So yeah. And now for the final 15 minutes of the session, Anki questions, which I honestly hate. I don't know why, but I have the tendency to make myself like the worst, most brutal questions, completely forgetting that I'm gonna have to come back and answer these questions at a later date. I think I was answering questions on red blood cells and hemostasis. I was pretty much getting all of the questions wrong, but that's fine, you know, I'm okay with that. There's time to improve. Eventually, as I kept repeating all of the questions over and over again, however, some of them began to vaguely stick in my head. Hopefully, you know, all of the questions will stick in my head for the actual exam. I really like this revision technique though, because I always used to make notes on paper in sixth form, and I would literally just never go back to them. And when it comes to flashcards, I'd get to a point where I had like literally 500 flashcards, and obviously, you know, there's no chance in me revising 500. Like 500 flashcards is just a bit excessive, I think. But like, the beauty with Anki is that you don't have that barrier of seeing 500 flashcards staring back at you, so it's a lot easier to start and feel as though you're making some sort of progress. And that is a wrap. I'm very tired, I can't lie. I need my bed right now. I hope you guys got some work done. I definitely got a bit of work done. I'm definitely scared as to how much I don't know. As I said, that DR, I didn't know what was going on in, and my Anki flashcards, yeah, they need some work to be done. But I hope you guys did enjoy the video and found it like kind of motivating. If you did, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you want to join the student army, guys. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.